Award season is in full swing, and for now we seem to be leaving behind blockbusters and franchise films, with the exception of a small few still scheduled to rear their heads in the upcoming weeks. What we have to look forward to now is the time of year where Hollywood dumps anything and everything that they didn't want competing against the likes of movies like Spider-Man. In years past, this usually meant all the movies studios felt were doomed to fail anyway. The last decade, however, has bucked this trend, with studios releasing either smaller indie films that have been good but would have been overshadowed if released any other time of the year, or else wide releases for films that previously saw limited release in hopes of earning coveted award nominations. This week's review is of a film that fits both the smaller indie and the award circuit mold. From Joel Coen, famous for his collaborations with brother Ethan on such works as Fargo and No Country for Old Men, comes yet another Hollywood adaptation of a William Shakespeare play, the tragedy of Macbeth. Going solo for this film, Joel has brought to the table all of the visual flair and artistic style of a Coen brothers film to Shakespeare. While Shakespeare adaptations can be a dime a dozen in Hollywood, the good ones always stand out. And in the case of Joel Coen's adaptation of Macbeth, it definitely stands out. Starring Denzel Washington in the lead role of Macbeth, with Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth, the film is the familiar story of Macbeth, including witches, plots of murder, and madness. Joel adapts play to screen in a very straightforward and bare-bones manner. If you know the story of Macbeth, you know the film's plot. This, of course, is not a problem, as again, it is meant as a direct adaptation of the play itself, not a modernized telling or adaptation based upon the play. So then, what makes Joel Coen's take on the Bard's play so unique? Well, there is of course the rich visuals one expects with any Coen film. Shot in black and white with minimalist sets shrouded in constant fog, Coen's Macbeth is both cinematic in its telling and visuals, while also evoking the simplicity of theater stage. Through use of lighting and cinematography, the film accentuates the characters and scenes in a way only film can, but the bare rooms and open country sets keep the focus on the actors and dialogue. There are not massive or grandiose set pieces nor excessive props. This minimalistic approach evokes the simplicity of Shakespeare plays while highlighting the rich themes therein, keeping the focus on the actual substance of Shakespeare's tale rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. The film is well acted, with Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand both giving exemplary performances in their roles. Both being Oscar winners and having acted on stage throughout their careers, this is none too surprising. Not talked about enough, I feel, however, is Kathryn Hunter's portrayal of the three witches. Stealing the show in every scene they appear in, Hunter is mesmerizing and chilling. What makes Coen's adaptation of Macbeth stand out above others, even more so than its visuals and performances, however, is its accessibility to those who may not be the strongest fans of Shakespeare. Now, I don't think it's the most accessible adaptation of Shakespeare by any means. Coen still leans strongly into the language of Shakespeare's play, and there are times when Coen lets the performances and dialogue play out exactly as you imagine Shakespeare to play out. But for a film that tries to maintain the dialogue delivered in iambic pentameter as written, the cast's mannerisms, along with a delivery of lines that is in most cases spoken as people conversing rather than enforced poetry, you can tell that Coen didn't want to just make another art house Shakespeare film. He wanted people to actually enjoy and be enthralled by it. This is also notable in the way Coen has adapted the play for screen. Some scenes and lines of dialogue have been cut for a more streamlined film, with a runtime shy of 2 hours. Some scenes are combined, but any changes made isn't done so in an attempt to do better what Shakespeare has already written, but to allow the film to visually show these plot points rather than let characters give long speeches about what is going on. On stage, in a theater, you don't have all of the visual cues to give audiences, and so characters must often monologue about the plot. Where this isn't necessary, Coen trims the play for something more concise and cinematic, and it pays off. Shakespeare has been done to death and will continue to be done so. He has left a lasting legacy that has influenced our modern language and storytelling, and it is only natural that creative minds would wish to revisit his plays to give their own spin or flavor to great stories. Coen does this all while honoring what makes Macbeth one of Shakespeare's most popular tragedies. It won't entice everyone, which is fair, as Shakespeare isn't something everyone can get behind. but it does offer up plenty for those who otherwise may not typically care for Shakespeare, and definitely will satisfy those who already love the play. I give The Tragedy of Macbeth 3.5 out of 4 stars.